Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Shoot Interview Series. Today we're joined by none other than Buff Bagwell. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, thank you.
I guess my first question would be, what kind of athlete were you as a teenager?
I hated school. Absolutely did not like school. So I went to school simply to play sports. So I was all county, all state, football, baseball. I wrestled 1 year, but I wanted to be big, you know. So with wrestling in high school, you got to lose a lot of weight to be competitive. So it's kind of tough to do that and be big at the same time for football. It's tough. So basically, I gave up wrestling in high school, but basically it was football, baseball all the way.
Right. At what age did you get into weightlifting?
When I was 16. Yeah, I was 16 years old, and it was like I was so sick of being skinny, man. I hated being skinny. I said, I'm going to do something about this. So it was just my life. It was my life, and it still is. It was totally diet. I mean, no matter what I was doing, if it was going to play golf, if it was going to the movies, I was still planning on where my shake was coming in or my meal was coming in next, and it was always planning it out, and it's still like that now. So it's a job, man. Just diet alone and to look like we look, the best we can look. It's really hard to be on the road and look like we look. It's tough. It's tough.
Were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Believe it or not, I wasn't. My brothers were. They were huge fans, and I liked it, but not that much to it. You know, I just we do. You know, we watched it on Sundays. We were rednecks. You know,
Right.
You know, we went deer hunting on Friday and Saturday, and came on Sunday and watched good old, God rest his soul, Gordon Soley and
Georgia.
Yeah. And we watched all that, and on Sunday night, we ate meals, you know. So,
How did you get into the business?
Missy Hyatt got me into it. She came in and literally moved into the complex that I was living at, and she didn't know I was married. So at the time, she came in and she said, move me wherever the hell that guy's living. So literally, she moved right across from me. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, like my door and her door. I mean, it was that close, you know. And then she met my wife, and then it was all cool, you know.
Right.
And we were all friends, and she's real cool, you know. She's got a wild side to her, but we all do, you know.
Right. Now, how did you get into the global territory? And how did you meet up with Joe Pedicino?
What happened with that was Missy sent me down to, there was no power plant back then. And Missy put me into calling Joe Pedicino and saying, look, let's do something with this guy. What can we do? You know, this and that. And let me back up. First of all, wrestling school,
Right.
which was down in Griffin, Georgia. And there was like 2 people down there, you know. And that was it. It was Kevin Nash and myself and a couple other guys. That was it, man.
Right.
You know. And back then, wrestling wasn't popular, you know. It wasn't anything, you know. And Missy told me the money that could be made in it, you know, if you made it big. And I was like, I'm going to do this, you know. So when she made the call to Joe, I said, look, I want that ring. I can't do that. That's just, it was just too much of a turmoil, and I can't afford $3,000 at the time, you know. And that's what they were charging, and I said, I can't do that, you know. She said, well, why don't you let me call Joe. She called Joe, and when she called Joe, we started off with North Georgia Wrestling.
Right.
With Joe, and from there, it went from there to Global, and from Global was WCW.
Who were some of the guys that taught you the most in the business when you first got into the business, down in Global and stuff like that? Who were some of the guys that were your mentors?
There really weren't too many mentors in Global. Eddie Gilbert was good, and he was actually married to Missy at the time.
Right.
And but really, there was the first time I realized that I could do this, because I came from wrestling in skating rinks and wrestling guys that didn't know what they were doing and things like that, you know. So, you know.
Is there any guys that stuck out in your mind that you can think of now that taught you like psychology and the ring stuff?
No, everybody was actually, yes. I'm sorry, one Scotty. Well, he's Scotty the Body then.
Scott Raven. Right.
Yeah, Raven. And when I saw him work, I went, wow, this kid can work, He was the first one to come in that showed me that he could work, And I was like, man, this is wow, man, show me, man, show me,
Right.
And wrestling, you're only as good as who you work,
Right. Now, how did you wind up in WCW after Global? Because you did the the Handsome Stranger gimmick, I think, down in Texas for a while,
yes. Right? Yeah. From there, from Joe's first North Georgia thing, I went to Global, and then Global fizzled out, and from there, the Handsome Stranger thing and all that, and that fizzled out, and then after that fizzled, I was like, what am I going to do now, And literally, the day they said, we can't have you no more, the exact same day, Magnum called, and he said, hey, this is Magnum TA. And I said, who? And he says, Magnum TA. And then it hit me. I go, oh, I said, hey, man, what's going on, But I didn't know about the business that much,
right.
Then. I didn't know about it, And he said, listen, Dusty saw you on your so-and-so, and won't you come down and try out for us, and this and that. So they signed me for $500 a week to go to wrestling school. And when they signed me to go to wrestling school, they 2 days into wrestling school, Barry Windham hurt his knee, so they put him on the road. And I showed him I could do it, and was able to, come through and be, part of the show.
Right.
Well, and
go ahead.
No, I'm saying part of the show. So after being part of the show, they said, "Guy, we got to sign this guy," So I was broke at $500 a week. I mean, live on the road, it's $100 a day minimum.
Right.
It's the best you can do. That's just minimum. I mean, to look like we got to look with eating and training and all that stuff. That's $100 a day.
What were your initial impressions of WCW? And I guess Dusty was the booker at the time. What were your initial thoughts on him?
Well, Dusty hired me. He's the first one who hired me. So I went down. He called me down for a meeting, and we went back and forth with the Global thing. And I said, look, man, I said, just, I said, I don't want to go to this last Global thing, just hire me,
Right.
Let me in. He said, you're in, So then we worked out the contracts and all that,
Cool. What was the transition with wrestling as far as working for Global compared to WCW? As far as the style, ring style?
Huge, because there was so many bigger stars there that, that I was able to learn from, more, So anytime you go to a bigger, organization, you're going to find out, there's different ways and different things to find out, and that's what happened with WCW. I was like, oh my gosh, man, now I'm really getting it now, I understand,
Right.
So that's what happened.
Was there any jealousy because you're push being so new when you first got into WCW as far as the boys? Or?
God, a push. Erase that. I never got a push here. I mean, my push consisted of, as far as I can remember, my push consisted of beating Ric Flair, beating Piper, and then they had David Flair beat me in Atlanta. So, you know.
We'll talk all about that later in the interview.
Yeah.
All that. But when you first got in there, what are your memories of working with Rick Rude? You also worked with Steve Austin when you first got in there.
You know, picture the scene, man. First of all, I was 20 years old. And back then, to be 20 years old in wrestling was unheard of. That was unheard of. The next youngest guy, God rest his soul, was Brian Pillman. He was 27. In either company, WCW or WWF. And so, picture me, I'm in the corner like this going, you know, and they thought I was this young kid that never been anywhere and nothing like that. They didn't know my background of being a hellraiser and wide open and knowing the street smart stuff, you know. And
right.
But I had to play the role of trying to fit in, you know, because all these guys, here I am, 20 years old, in all with Rude and Arn Anderson and Ric Flair and Sting and all those guys in the dressing rooms, and I'm going, you know, what about, you know, gosh, you know, so I was on the corner, you know, and Sting was the first one to actually take me under his wing.
So he was pretty much like looking out for you.
Yeah, we just started talking, and even still, when he came in and started liking me, that everybody else still was like, well, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, you know? And then finally it came around and they realized that I was cool or whatever they want to call it, and was able to, you know, be sociable with them and wasn't just a young punk.
Right,
you know?
right. What are your memories of being paired with Too Cold Scorpio and your thoughts on Too Cold?
Too Cold actually was the first stage of putting me on the map a little bit, actually, because they wouldn't, I say they, mean WCW wouldn't let me do things I wanted to do, you know. They were like, well, do this, do that. You know, they wasn't sure what I could do. But when Scorpio came in, I knew I could do the moves, some of the moves he could do, you know. And that tag team really helped me a lot because they saw, wow, this kid can work, you know. And he's young, right. So, you know. But then again, Young goes against you in this business because Young's like, well, you know, let's beat him this week. He'll be fine, and
right.
You know, he'll be all right. We'll build him next week or next year, or, you know. So it goes for you, and it also goes against you. So.
What are your memories of working with Steve Austin and Brian Pillman? You had some matches with them.
That was a great time. We wrestled them a bunch. That was when they were the Hollywood Blondes, right. And once again, still wrestling at that stage still wasn't, you know, popular, you know, at all. And so, but Steve Austin is phenomenal, you know, he really is, and Brian Pillman was too. They were great to get in the ring with, and each thing, like life, is like, you know, it builds, you know, it builds up slowly, you know.
Right.
And that was another stepping stone, you know.
Did things change when Ric Flair came back to WCW, and what was your relationship like with him?
I wouldn't say things changed at all. Me and Rick's relationship is very good, very good. But things didn't change at all. I mean, at least for what I could see, you know.
Right.
I mean, maybe, you know, company-wise it did.
Right.
But I was too young to really understand if it was changing or not, you know. I was just trying to do the right thing and be a good boy and just thankful to God that I had a job, you know.
What are your memories of working with the Nasty Boys?
Oh, I love those guys, man. That was another stepping stone, you know, when you get, like I said, once again, going back to what I said earlier, you're only as good as your work, you know. And when you get in the ring with somebody else like that, and how I always put that is, it takes Hogans to make Stings. It takes Stings to make Buffs. It takes Buffs to make the other talent, you know. And for some reason, WCW lost that part of it.
Right.
And I don't know why. They skipped over that and tried to make these new stars that nobody knew. And I think that's where we started fumbling, you know. That was the bad part of it, you know.
I have a lot of questions on that later on too. So
Yeah.
Memories of working with Harlem Heat.
Great matches always. Those guys are really good. I like those guys a lot. We would wrestle them 1,000 times, and so did Nasty Boys too. But for years and years, I was tag team only. You know,
Right.
I'm the only guy ever in a entertainment, you know, sport that has been a 5-time world tag team champion with 5 different partners, ever. And so somebody told me that. I didn't look it up. I mean, I was like, somebody told me, and then I said, wow. So I started looking for it, and I was like, God, I am the only one, you know. So it's very rare to have that kind of ordeal going on when you're having 5 different times a world tag team champion with 5 different partners. I mean, that's big, you know.
How well did you know Eric Bischoff before he came into power?
Eric Bischoff was absolutely just an announcer. He was just in the back scene, no big deal, and he did not like me at all. And finally, he warmed up to me, and we ended up being great friends, you know.
I was going to ask you what your initial thoughts on him when he came into power.
Initial were me trying to prove myself. I never disliked him,
Right.
but trying to prove myself to him. It was like, why is he not seeing what I can do here, you know? And I was trying to prove myself, till finally, through Dallas Page and other friends going, look, man, this kid can work, you know? And then finally he meets me, and, you know, and then it all went from there. But he's, we're tight now, you know.
How did the American Male's gimmick come about, and what were your thoughts on it?
Jimmy Hart thought of the whole thing. And the American Males, once again, was another stepping stone, huge, because that was more toward the buff character. I was able to wear the earrings and the chokers and more myself. And
right.
How to describe that is, you know, John Wayne never won an Academy Award. Never. If you tell people that, they're like, oh, you're crazy, but check on it. He's never won an Academy Award. And why is because he always played himself. And if you can find a character in wrestling that you're playing yourself and it gets over like John Wayne, then you know you're there, you know.
Right. What were your initial thoughts when you first heard about Eric Bischoff's idea to do Nitro and go head-to-head with Vince McMahon's Monday Night Raw? Did you in the rest of the locker room think it was going to work out, or did you think it was going to, you know, a bad idea?
I can't remember that far back, really. I just remember it taking off very fast, you know. And to answer your question, my initial thoughts were, it's going to work, you know.
Right.
It's going to work, and it did, you know.
When Hogan came into the company, how did things change?
Once again, that's out of my league, man. It's just like I'm not sure how it changed company-wise, but to the boys and all that,
right.
Nothing, man. I mean, he was really cool, man. Hogan's cool as hell, man, and he always was there for everybody, and was, you know, he had his own dress room and stuff, but he would come out and it wasn't, you know, snobby
right.
at all. Real cool, real laid back, and I love him.
Do you think that when I guess the Road Warriors and the Steiners returned to WCW, do you think it hurt the push of you and Riggs in any way, or do you think not?
Say that again now.
Do you think when the Road Warriors and the Steiners returned to WCW, do you think it hurt the push of you and Scotty Riggs at all?
Yeah, because that was a real crucial time. That was when there were baby faces and there were heels, and the baby faces went out going, yeah, yeah, and the heels did things. And nowadays, you know, it's just not like that. Wrestling is much different, man. It's so different. It's like
everybody's a tweener.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can remember when NWO was hot. I mean, our whole crowd was college guys, you know.
Right.
So it's just it didn't hurt us that bad at all. It just was another stepping stone, you know.
Did Eric Bischoff change anyway when WCW became more popular?
A little bit. Eric was wanting to be more and more on TV, and but Eric is good on the mic. You know, he's good on the mic, like Vince is. You know, but he just was a little bit too much on the mic, I think, and a little too much on, you know, trying to be part of the show instead of being more in the background, and that's what got us there, you know. Eric is phenomenal. He's the one that was behind the NWO, and between him and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, those three together created, you know, NWO, and it just was a great thing that hopefully will be topped, but may not ever will be topped ever again, you know.
One of my next questions actually was when I guess Hall, Nash, and Sean Waltman came in, did things change at all as far as like the dressing room, and was there a lot of political struggles going on with Hogan and?
Once again, those were big league players at the time, and I was just, they came to me and said, "You want to be in NWO?" And I was like, "Yes, please," you know.
Right.
So I still at that stage was not in a position to, you know the knowledge of the business of what they were doing. I was just trying to do the right thing, you know, and not trying to do it. It just, I'm a good person, you know, and so I didn't put myself in that. I just know that, you know, way before Sean and Scott Hall, this business is about bookers that, well, WCW is. They're about bookers that were bring their friends in, you know, and take care of them, and everybody else was, you know, second or third, you know.
Right.
I mean, for example, Dick Slater, great guy, all that, but I have actually been beat by Dick Slater 5 times, him being fired, rehired, and beat 5, I'm saying 5, roughly 4 or 5. Roughly 4 or 5 times where he was like, come back in and beat Marcus at that time. And then, you know, do a little run and didn't work, and get fired. Come back in and beat me again. So it's all about clicks, you know, in this business, but WWF's a little better about that as far as the clicks go, and WCW was much worse because Ted had all this money, and how to describe that is Ted Turner was like our father. And when your father buys you a new car, you take care of that car, okay? But when you buy your own car, you realize you really didn't take care of that car the way you thought you did.
Right.
And that's how it is with WCW. It was like Ted was forking this money out, and he knew nothing about wrestling, but he loved it.
Right.
And was giving it to people that were running it. And if Ted knew about wrestling like Vince does, we would have been
still in business.
Exactly, equal to them and still in business, you know.
Was there any heat between the WCW vets and the new guys when they came in? Like some of the guys with the new blood, as far as like Kevin and guys who've already been in the company, like Ric Flair, per se.
Ask that question again.
As far as like the guys who've been in WCW for a long time, is there any heat between the guys that were there for a while and the new guys coming in that Bischoff is bringing over?
The heat was NWO were supposed to be heels.
Right.
And all of a sudden we were babyfaces.
Right.
They loved us. So all the WCW guys were like, you gotta be kidding, you know? So the heat was much bigger than just a few names. It was just something that happened. I mean, NWO, we put it out there and it worked. And when it worked, we were loved, and we thought we were going to be hated, but they liked us. So all of a sudden, here's Sting and Luger and those guys, Dallas Page, they were almost the heels when they got in the ring with us.
Right.
So that's where the turmoil kind of came from a little bit, you know.
What were your thoughts when the idea came up to turn you heel, and whose idea was it to turn you heel?
Gosh, man, I don't even remember that totally. It was just, I've had so many changes and so many bosses. I mean, to survive in one company 11 years and go through 4 different bosses is, in this business,
Right.
is unheard of. And I'm not real sure about that one.
How hard or easy was it to go into the heel character? I mean, did you enjoy being heel, or you?
Buff is better as a heel, much better. And once again, let me say Buff as the third party, because I know the difference of, this is Marcus, and Buff he's the guy that wrestles.
Right.
You know, a lot of guys get that confused, and they believe their character and things like that. I don't. Never have. Buff is just an exaggerated character of Marcus, like the John Wayne thing, you
Right.
know, and that's basically what that's about, you know.
What are your memories of your first New Japan tour that you went to?
I was miserable because I wanted to sign a new deal, and Eric said, "We'll sign it when we get back." I was like, "Gosh," you know, I was so frustrated, but it actually worked out great because we went over there, and I really got over in Japan with NWO and all that stuff. So when I came back, it was even more power to negotiate with Eric, you know.
Right.
And he saw that, you know, I went over there and did the jobs and not the jobs like getting beat, but like, you know, just did my work and did it right and did it good. And NWO was very popular over there, you know.
What are your thoughts on the, or actually your memories of teaming with Scott Norton?
Scott Norton's great. Scott Norton is a good friend of mine, but Scott needed somebody like me to like pep talk him. I mean, if you get a videotape out right now and watch Scott Norton walk to the ring by himself, or get Scott Norton to walk to the ring with me, I'd get him fired up,
Right.
you know.
You bring out his charisma.
Yeah, I bring that charisma out, you know, make him do things, and
Right.
you know, but he is just Japan made. I mean, I sit there in Japan 1,000 times and was like going, watching his matches, man, because he's just, you know, he just loves rough, tough, and it's hard for him to tone it down and be charisma and, you know, charismatic, and, you know,
He's used to the stiff style of Japan.
he was very, very used to being stiff, you know.
Memories of working with Chris Benoit?
Chris Benoit, really there's not many memories there except just simply he's a great worker, you know, and I've got nothing bad to say about him, but nothing but good things to say about him. He's just a great worker that it goes 110%, and a lot of guys don't do that, including myself. I don't. You know, after I broke my neck, I really had to try to, you know, build that back up again. And it's amazing the heat I get on people saying, you know, well, he don't do the moves he used to do and things like that. And there's never nothing in there saying, well, you know, just don't forget, guys, you know, he did break his neck, you know, 3 years ago. So, you know, I mean, I can remember going to the power plant and literally couldn't take a slam. And this has come from a guy that has been through everything. And I was like, slam me, you know. And the guy picked me up to slam me. I said, put me down. Put me down. And I got fired up again, you know. And I said, well, let's try it again. I said, put me down. Put me down. I can't do it. So finally they put a pad in there, you know, and then I was slowly, before it was over, I got it back. But it was a real hard horse to climb back on.
I got questions about that too. So.
Yeah.
Memories of teaming with Sean Waltman?
Really, there's not much there either. Only a couple times, and he's a great worker, you know. And there's really not much to that.
Okay. Was Steve McMichael a locker room joke, or Did the boys take him seriously, or do you think he was just in it, you know?
I like Steve a lot, but it was obvious that he really didn't have what it took. And this is coming from a guy that couldn't do anything that he's done in the NFL, you know. I mean, he's a super athlete. He's got a Super Bowl ring, if not one or two. But in the wrestling world, I've seen wrestling make athletes look like idiots, and I've seen people that couldn't throw a baseball from here to that wall look like superstars. Wrestling is a very, very different sport, and people don't understand that. They think, oh, it's easy, you know, but it's so much combined with, you know, ad-libbing, charisma, your look, timing, everything, staying in shape year-round, that people don't quite understand. They think, you know,
Anyone can do it.
yeah, well, we just went Monday night and watched a show, and you know, they don't realize we go, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you know. So, but he wasn't a joke. Everybody liked Steve a lot, but he wasn't what he was in the NFL, and he knew that, you know.
What are your thoughts on guys like Jay Leno and other guys, like celebrities they put in the ring? Do you think it was good for the business, or do you think it hurt the business?
I'm not real sure about that either. I think the only one that I think kind of hurt was David Arquette, you know.
Killed the title.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like I said, bringing guys in and mixing talent in, that's great. But to win the World Heavyweight Championship, that really, really degraded World Championship Wrestling, right. You know. And, you know, it was almost, even though we know it's sports entertainment, it was a slap to all the fans' faces, you know, it really was. It was a bad scene.
Memories of your program with Lex Luger?
Oh, I love Lex. Lex has got a ton of heat like I do too, but Lex knows a lot about the business, and he's still got one of the highest, you know, Q ratings they are. Hogan and him are two of the highest Q ratings, and the Q rating is, if you don't know, which I'm sure you do, is just basically, long story short, is if you walk in a room full of people, who's going to notice who first? I mean, Hogan, people, I don't care where Hogan goes, he's going to get noticed before Buff does. So his Q rating would be higher than Buff Bagwell. And same with Lex Luger. You know, he's just, but we clicked, we got along, and we still talk frequently and work out and,
right.
And all that stuff. So Lex is a good guy.
How would you rate Lex as a worker?
I think Lex, like myself, toward the end, was just tired of the BS, man. We just got run over so much, you know, and just, it's like a coach coming in the NFL and saying, you guys stink, you suck, and take that. Now go wrestle. So when you have that kind of atmosphere, I mean, literally, we had a box this big that we had to check in by. You got to the building, and you had to put your number in, and you had to put a fingerprint on it. If you were 1 minute late, you got fined. And they thought, in their small minds, WCW actually thought that was their problem. That the guys being late was a problem. And it wasn't, you know. It was not the problem. There were many more issues than are the guys going to be late or not, you know.
I'm going to talk about that too. So,
yeah.
When you started doing the pose downs with Scott Steiner, was the plan all along for you two to pose together in the long run, or?
What happened with me and Scotty were, I had the neck injury, so I got real big again, and then he got shredded. So when I got shredded, I don't care who you are, two human beings, here comes the friction. The boys are stirring it up, right. You know, and I, you know, who's got the better abs this week, and who's more tan, and you know, and to be able to stand beside Scott Steiner, the biggest freak in the business, it's pretty hard to do, and I was able to do that, you know, and I feel like I brought a lot of charisma out of Scotty, you know. But he really don't think that, and that's fine. That's just something that I think. Scotty's a killer. He's good. He's believable because he is believable. He's real, man. And he should have been the world heavyweight champion a long time before he was.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, he was in a shell for a long time, and all of a sudden he came out of his shell. So it helped him tremendously, you know.
Memories of working with DDP.
Tremendous, really. He's one of the best workers as far as going over things and having everything just right, knowing what's going on, and just his work ethic was just tremendous.
Student of the game, basically.
He was, you know, and that was at first got Dallas a lot of heat, and ended up having you know, guys respect him for it, you know.
Was there any jealousy over DDP's push, maybe because he was friends with Eric Bischoff?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was heat there. There was heat there, and but I always came back with, because I liked Dallas a lot. I always came back with, I don't care who you're friends with. I mean, you've got to be handed the ball, yes, but when you get the ball, you got to do something with it. You've got to do something with the ball, and you know, if you can't do something with the ball, then you know, just because you're friends with Eric don't mean the fans are going to respond to you. You know, he was able still to get out and get over, and they put him with the right people. But still, the bottom line is, if you put, you know, John Doe with Macho Man, he may not get over, you know. So Dallas was able to take what he was given and be able to really, you know, go with it, and the people responded, and he got over.
What were your thoughts on Bill Goldberg's push?
I think he deserved every bit of it. It was timing, of course. Timing's everything in every business, of course, as we all know. But Bill could not have came in if you sketched it out on a computer at a better time. I mean, Nitro, his look, his intensity, just everything just went, you know, perfect for him, you know. And at the same time, you know, he's like Scotty, he's believable, you know, because he is a legit, you know, badass, you know.
Do you think Kevin Nash should have ended the streak as early as he did, or do you think they should have let it go on a little bit longer the first time when they first did it?
I think it should have been a little longer. You know, it's just not much longer, but a little longer, you know.
What are your thoughts on when Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash did the one finger pin?
That was bad, I thought, because we went from, I can't remember how many months it was, but Goldberg, you know, winning the belt in Atlanta. I mean, just, I had chill bumps on my arm because the Goldberg chant was so in sync. It was like an echoing, it was unreal, you know, to that, to win the belt, once again, sat the fans in the face a little bit, you know. And so, you know, I don't know.
What went wrong in April of '98 when you injured your neck with Scotty Steiner?
It was actually Rick.
It was Rick.
Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner came out with a bulldog and just complete freak accident, you know. I mean, I took it, that move 1,000 times, and he just came off, and that's really it. He felt bad, like it was his fault, and I said, man, it's not your fault. You know, it was just a freak accident, you know.
Was the company supportive?
Oh, very, very supportive. They paid for everything, took care of me, and Eric really was really good on that.
Did the guys stay in touch with you while you were out and stuff?
Everybody did, yeah.
Did you ever get depressed at the time, not being able to work and work out? Or?
Oh, it killed me because, you know, we were hot, you know, and I'd go home and turn Nitro on and just pray that I saw one buff sign, you know.
Right.
If I saw just one, sometimes it'd be 10. If I just saw one, I'd be like, okay, you know. And I was back on TV in 3 months,
right.
You know.
How'd your mom wind up getting involved?
They wanted actually, I take it back. Rick Steiner thought of it, and he said, what better place to bring your mom in, Atlanta, you know, and all that. And then she did the promo in Columbia. When I turned back Hill, and man, just stole the show. You know, I mean Hogan and Bischoff and everybody was back there like, you know,
Right.
great job, you did a heck of a job, you know.
Did you and Scott ever have any tension between you guys with outshining each other, or with
Yeah, that's what's actually the end of us is what happened is, you know, we go out to an interview, and you know he'd do the whole interview, and I wouldn't talk, and I said, Scotty, man, let me talk a little bit, you know. I said, I understand. I said, I've been out. I got no problem with that. I said, I mean, I go out. I mean, just look at the tapes. I go out and put you over, and he's the man,
Right.
and God point at you and take the camera off me. But then the more I got in shape, the more frustrated I got, the more I wanted the camera, and that's where it started kind of happening. So we had to talk about it, and he said he wanted to stay together, and then the next interview we did, he was. He kept the mic the whole time again. You know, I said, you know what, Scotty? I said, I don't need you. I said, and you don't need me. I said, it's that simple. You know, I said, do you think? Go.
So you guys basically separated at the time.
Yes.
Memories of working with Conan.
Conan's all right. He's a good guy. He's actually a great guy. It's just,
Outspoken.
once again, I didn't work with him much, so I can't really, you know, talk about his work ethic and where he comes from, because I think I worked with him maybe once or twice, you know. But I think he's a star, you know.
What happened with the backstage fight between you and DDP, and was it a work?
It was a work, and it was just something that we were trying to get the business, you know, spark back up, you know.
How did Eric Bischoff handle it when WCW was sliding and going down as far as mentally?
Well, all that was fine till, you know, till they were told that, you know, WCW was going to be his and all that. Then Vince backdoored him and got the company, and that's when Eric really got depressed, and not depressed, but upset, and like, you got to be kidding, you know. I mean, I worked this hard on this, and
Right.
you know, and a handshake, and you know.
Just to back up a little bit, I was going to ask you, what were your thoughts on the big meeting that they did with Eric and all the boys, where he offered releases and actually Raven took him up on it?
I thought it was good. Eric was straightforward, man, and that's what made Eric a great boss. And we never had a boss until Eric, you know, really. I mean, everybody, like I said, it was kind of like, you know, pass the buck. When Eric was there, it was, you know, boom, or whatever Eric said.
Right.
And when Raven stood up, I mean, I applauded him, you know. It was a very gutsy thing he did. But at the same time, he may want to, when you go gutsy, the word gutsy, you almost want to go stupid too. It's a fine line. I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm not saying it's gutsy. I'm saying it's a fine line. And when he stood up, everybody went, wow, you know. All right, that's pretty gutsy. Then everybody thought about it a little more and went, that may have been stupid. So, you know, I'm not real sure, but it was pretty deep. It was a pretty deep meeting. It was in, I'll never forget, it was in Vegas. So.
Right. What was the morale like in WCW towards the end of the Bischoff days?
Can't explain it. It was unbelievable. Like I said, just picture Goldberg, Kevin Nash, Sting, myself, and Lex sprinting to check into this little box. Not because of a $500 fine, a $1,000 fine, because the point of where they had us. And that's the morale they had us in. I mean, literally, we're sprinting, all of us, so we're not late. So they can't say, you know, what are you doing, man, you know?
Right.
I mean, not even a window. I mean, not even like a, you know, 1 minute late, or, I mean, 15 minutes late, 30 minutes late. It was 1 minute. If you're 1 minute late, you got fined. So the morale was just horrible, man, you know?
Now, what were your initial thoughts on Vince Russo when he came into power?
I thought he was going to be the man. I thought he was going to really do a lot of things that were very successful. And, you know, I don't blame Vince. I think it was a combination. I think it could be fate, whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is, it was a combination, and he definitely was part of it, you know.
Did you become apprehensive the more he put himself on TV at first?
Well, yeah, because he always told us in meetings that he would never put himself on TV. And that's why he always would put the camera here and show the other guys and all that. Then all of a sudden he's beating up everybody with bats, you know. And if that draws ratings, then that's fine. But, you know, once again, TV does funny things to you, you know. You get out there and you want to be the star, you know.
Right.
So
was the morale any different when he came in? Did the guys see hope or later?
oh, absolutely. When he first came in, it was like, oh man, we've got it. I mean, this is it. We're going to kick butt and all that. But then the things he'd throw out, we'd go, okay, all right. And we'd go with him, of course, you know. And then finally we were going, man, this ain't making sense. I mean, you know, we're turning the TV on and we got, you know, two guys wrestling two guys, and nobody knows none of the guys. I said, so click, 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 click. I mean, just, it takes a star to make a star, like I said earlier, you know, and that just kills me that he was, I really believe in my heart that he was just fed up with the big money prima donna guys and had his own plan to make some new stars, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it didn't work.
Right.
You know, I mean, to me, that was a big part of killing the company. You know, I mean, like I said, Sean O'Hara, Chuck Palumbo, two great workers, but put them in the ring with Sting and Buff, or Lex and Buff, now you got, you know, you're building these guys up. You put them in the ring with Lash LaRue and somebody else, then you ain't got nothing, you know?
Exactly.
And that's what's going on, you know? And everybody's just like, what in the hell is going on here, you know? So it was really weird.
Thoughts on working Jeff Jarrett?
I think Jeff's great. I think he's one of the best workers mentally, and just a genuine good guy. I think Jeff's just, he's business. And that's hard to find in this business, to be business, you know, and not be, you know, well, I'm winning tonight, or I'm losing, or, you know, I'm not going to do that. And he was never like that, you know. He'd always come to you and we'd talk, and he was very business, you know.
Thoughts on your series with Alex Wright, Berlin?
Totally was the downfall of Buff beginning. And that's what started me getting upset, where all the heat started coming. So I would put Alex Wright, and it's not his fault because we're friends, but that's where it all started for me, speaking my mind a little more,
right,
and getting the heat I got. When here I am, you know, up and down the roads, getting over, or let's be cocky for a second, was over, and here's Alex Wright getting paid, sitting at home. He comes in and beats me the first time he's in the match, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You know? So, once again, that's not his fault, you know? He just does what he's told. But that was now that I think about it, when you asked me the question, that was like the first, you know, are you kidding me, you know? Like, man.
Thoughts when Bret Hart was with the company? What are your thoughts on Bret?
I think Bret is a super athlete, super wrestler. It just didn't click here for him.
Do you think they didn't know how to use him?
I don't know what it was. I can't tell you that. I really don't know. I just know that he came here and it just did not work. They babied him, they healed him, and it just didn't work, you know. And WCW's real bad about, well, if we pay you this money, we're going to push you.
Right.
You know, and instead of, well, let's push guys that are getting over and getting responses, which is common sense, let's push guys we're paying all the money to because we're paying the money, and that to me that's wrong, you know. And he was in that category of they're paying him a lot of money, and they wanted to make him a star and felt like he could, and we all did too. We all thought, well, surely, you know, he'll something will click here and he'll get over, and but it just never happened for him. It was the weirdest thing, you know. And then his head thing, you know,
Right.
which is brutal.
Thoughts when Bischoff left and Bush and Kevin Sullivan came in to power?
Your first question. Thoughts when?
The thoughts of when Bischoff left the company, and then I guess Bush and Sullivan.
Okay, when Bischoff left the company, I knew right there. I was like, man, this is not good. You know, this. I mean, you just do not take a guy that took you to the top, and then like that, you let him go. You just don't do that. You just don't do that. You give him a warning, or you talk to him. That blew my mind. You just don't do that. I mean, for the first time ever, because of Eric Bischoff, WCW was the name that people said instead of saying, "Oh, you wrestle," or "Oh, WWF." It was all of a sudden, "You wrestle? Oh, WCW," and Eric took us there,
right.
You know. And you just don't fire a guy or let him leave with that kind of thing, you know. And then Bush came in, and oh God, I mean, our faces were just like, this guy's the one our company. But he actually is a hard ass, you know. He really is. But once again, he knew nothing about wrestling, nothing.
Right.
All he came in what to do was just chop heads, you know, and it just didn't work with him either.
Thoughts on when Benoit, Perry, and all those guys left Malenko, the Radicals?
We thought they were crazy. We thought it was wrong, and it ended up being a good move for them, I think, you know. But we actually at first thought, whew, they're leaving all this money on the table here. They're going to work 3 times as much up there. You know, I was lost on that, but it ended up being a great move at a great time, you know. But that was, once again, very gutsy, you know.
What were your thoughts when Bischoff and Russo came back together? Did you think it was going to work this time, or did you think it was just a matter of time?
I really did. I thought it was going to work, and obviously it didn't, you know.
What were your thoughts on the whole Millionaires New Blood feud?
First time I felt, once again, like NWO. Like maybe, hey, we got a chance here. We got a chance again. And there was a couple of times even we talk about it, you know, like, hey man, we got this thing, you know. And then Eric was gone, and I can't explain what happened. It was so many things that were happening at that time, but that's when, you know, the first time since NWO that I really felt like, hey, here we go.
Right.
We got it going on again. You know, we got the war, we got the talent. You know, we've always, I feel, had more talent, first, second, third string than WWF. I always felt like that, and for some reason, with we just didn't know how to market the people right or something. I don't know what it was.
Over, maybe.
We just couldn't do it. It just didn't click, you know.
What were your thoughts of what went down between Hogan and Russo at the pay-per-view? Did you think it was a big work and they were trying to work the boys at first?
No, I knew it wasn't work at all. You know. I know. I said I know no details on that,
right.
Fact-wise, being facts, you know, facts. But I mean, it's like all I know is that you know, Hogan was real upset about it, and it was definitely not work. Thoughts
on teaming with Shane Douglas?
I think me and Shane get along great, and he's a great guy, real nice, and that's about it, really. I mean, he's a great worker, and we clicked and got along good, and just like I said, timing, you know, wrong place, wrong time.
What happened between you and the security guard?
I can't talk about that.
Okay, no problem. How did you and Lex?
Only because that's still in litigation.
That's cool. How did you and Lex wind up teaming together?
I think it was their idea. Johnny Ace's. It was Johnny Ace's idea, you know.
Do you think that the natural born thrillers were pushed too soon?
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, it just the common sense things. I mean, they'd put them in, you know. And once again, it's not their fault. I mean, they did what they were told.
Right.
But when you get out of a car at the opening of a show of a limo, and the crowd's watching, and I'm listening, and the crowd does absolutely nothing. Not a boo, not a cheer, nothing. I mean, let's switch gears here, you know. I mean, live TV is very funny. You throw it out there, if it works, you roll with it, you know. Like me and Scotty did, you know, years ago. And me and Scotty would do something, if it worked, and the next week we'd do something else, you know. And that's what you do. But if it don't work, then you stop and go another direction. But those guys, whether they can work, not work, whether they look good, not look good, the bottom line is they just were not ready to be pushed to the fans like that.
What happened at the last WCW pay-per-view when you and Lex apparently went against the script? There's a big thing about that.
That's a total, absolute lie rumor. Exactly what was laid out was I was supposed to go in the ring and get me and Lex to the interview. And then after the interview, Chuck and Sean slide in the ring, knock Lex to the floor, and they're going to shoot me off. Chuck is going to kick me. Swanton, 1, 2, 3. That was what was laid out to us.
Right.
But Lex felt like being on the floor, he looked stupid. So we said, hey, if you're going to build these guys, let's build them. You know? So we threw in, let's beat both of us. You know? And they said, sure. So a 52-second match is, the reason I know that because it was on the internet, should have been 26 seconds. I mean, theoretically. It should have been half that time for what they had laid out.
Right.
You know? And we got the heat because I think somebody in the back saw 8 minutes on the board and felt like, you know, we didn't want to be team players or something. And that was absolutely not the deal. We went to them and said, beat us both. You know? And we got beat by both of them. I mean, finishes. You know?
Right.
So.
Why do you think they beat you like that? They kind of squashed you guys.
Politics. I asked them, and they said that they felt like it was that Eric said, this was still when Eric was in control, that it was the last show. The next day was Panama City.
Right.
And he said there's no reason to switch belts right now, so let's keep it the way it is, taking a break, and that's, I mean, Lex took it, you know. And we were upset about it because we were such business for the 3 weeks prior to that. Right. I mean, they would do things like say, Buff, you and Lex, man, you know, after they beat you, I'll make sure they slide out. We'd say, no, we'll slide out, let them go in the corners and raise the belts. You know, that was our ideas. We were building these guys, you know. Because, I mean, you got to build them to beat somebody, or you're not beating anybody, you know. And so that's what upset us. But they didn't know that, you know. We went in and said, yes, sir, no, sir, you got it, we'll do it, you know. But we were just amazed that we put that much energy in trying to do the right thing and still, you know, came out the bad guys.
What are your thoughts on working Chronic? Or they like to work with?
Real easy to work with. I felt like they, as far as a booking standpoint, they just overkilled that. I mean, we worked them every week, it seemed, you know, just. And I even asked them, and that's, I guess, where I got my heat from. It's amazing that you be honest, and honesty is heat, you know. I'm like, guys, I mean, if they turned the channel on, and they saw me, you know, me and Lex, or Lex and I versus Chronic last week, I mean, and they see us this week, I mean, turn the channel on. I mean, I'd turn it. Right. Wouldn't you? I mean, that's why I asked them. They were like, well, no, I said, all right, whatever you guys want to do, you know. So actually, great to work with, easy to work with, great guys. Just I felt like they just overkilled it, you know.
What are your thoughts on the DDP Scott Steiner fist fight?
It was really a lot. It was kind of minor. I mean, just backstage, and tempers flare. You know.
What did you expect when you heard that Eric Bischoff bought the company? Did you think it was going to happen, or did you know?
None of us really knew for sure. We were. There was never a thing that he bought the company. It was always, he was going to buy it.
Right.
So, so we always we were hoping, because we wanted Eric to be our boss. I mean, he was, like I said, he was the only one that take us to the, to the top, So we felt like he was the best one in charge, And nobody, I mean, any guy that gets on this camera from WWF or WCW and says, we're glad that Vince bought WCW, they'd be lying. I mean, there needs to be two places to go. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just the way it needs to be,
I think competition builds the other company.
Absolutely. I mean, go look at the McDonald's. You find a McDonald's, and there'll be a Burger King close by.
Right.
If not next door, because competition brings money.
Yep. When did you first find out that WWF bought the company?
Gosh, I don't even know. It was, the next day, heard about it, My lawyer called me.
Take us through how everything went down at the last Nitro. I don't know if you were there.
I was there. It was real, not much to it, really. I mean, it was weird. People were going around taking pictures.
Right.
So it was kind of, I didn't think I'd be sad at all, but it was kind of sad, It was like, God, what's going on here? And what got me was the first time you saw, we tape on the bottom of doorways, like production
right.
and things like catering. All of a sudden there was a door that said WWF.
Right.
Whoa, this is it, man. It's done. So it was a weird deal. Everybody had a little bit of a weird look and was curious about what Shane was going to say, and Shane had a meeting that same day,
right.
and so.
Did you think you would be part of the new WCW at that point in time?
I had no idea, and then I went home, and then Dad called me. My father called me and said that Vince mentioned my name on Raw, and they had a great pop, So I thought, well, hopefully, they'll use me,
What promises were you made to by the WWF when you first had a meeting, and what were your initial impressions of Vince?
I wasn't promised anything except a guarantee, except a contract. Come work hard, and just there was no promises. But Vince is business,
right.
and period. He's just he's strictly business, and I respect that totally. I mean, Vince McMahon is he's about making money, and that's why they're still in business, and that's why WCW's not. And I respect that.
Were you surprised, I guess, when Vince mentioned your name on the promo from Cleveland?
I didn't. Do you know, to this day I've still not seen it, but blown away, to answer your question, when I was told. And everywhere I went, God, they talked about it. They mentioned 5 names, and you were like one of the second biggest pop. I was like, well, whatever. I'm just glad he mentioned my name.
Right.
Thank God.
What happened between you and Shane Helms while you guys were training for the new WCW?
Shane and me had words, and it was just back and forth and verbal joust, and then turned into me. I slapped him,
right.
And when I slapped him, he had an ice pack under his shirt I couldn't see, and I turned around. He hit me in the back of the head and gave me, as you can see, camera here. That's 5 weeks. So it was big, clotted up, and all that stuff, man. So it was. It was a bad scene, but to show you the respect I have for WWF, they asked me, they said, what happened? And I said, I fell. And they were like, what? I said, I fell. I fell down. And they were like, so we had a meeting the next day, and John Ace goes, look, we know Buff didn't fall, We don't want to know what happened.
Right.
But the bottom line is, we know he didn't fall. So, what in the hell is going on here? I mean, come on. If you guys can't get along, same day Jindrak and Hugh had words,
Right.
and they almost, it was really weird, and I found myself for the first time. There were cliques in WCW that were there, and I wasn't in any of them. So I was just trying to be, the middle guy and be nice to everybody, and then it still ended up being the bad guy somehow.
How were you treated the first night you worked for the WF at the house show against Booker T?
Fine, it was just a normal. There was no up or down or different. It was just total business, yeah.
Evaluate your performance on Raw against Booker T.
Absolutely horrible. The match was bad. There's several things that go along with that. I think that there's things I don't understand. I don't understand why we wrestle in Tacoma. I don't understand why you put us main event against each other. That's my opinion. And I know Vince is a very smart man, so obviously there's a reason, but when you got two guys in Tacoma where WCW's never been, and you put them against each other with Atlanta the next week.
Right. You could.
I mean, I didn't understand that, but I asked a question just as, the crowd didn't want to see us, they didn't like it, they didn't want it. And then, of course, that got in our heads, and we had a horrible match, And the night before that, we had a great match. And they put Pat Patterson with our match because he does all the main events.
Right.
And which is no problem with that. But see, Pat don't know Booker's moves and my moves. So Johnny does. So Johnny should have actually had that match, and he actually tried to get it or whatever. And, just things like that I think that we were nervous and we were scared to ask questions, So
Right.
we were like, I wasn't going to go say, hey, Pat, can Johnny do our match? I mean,
Right.
I had respect, So I just said, whatever you guys want, man. I'll do whatever you want,
Was there tension between any of the WCW guys and WF guys at first? Because I heard a lot of different stories that there was tension between the two.
Man, I had so much heat on me, I don't even know. I really don't. There was just a ton of heat on me, period. If I'd go in a dressing room and sit with them, it was like they didn't want me there. So I'd leave. And if I left the dressing room, then I was stuck up and didn't want to talk to them.
Here's a great. This is perfect timing. I was going to ask you this later in the interview, but it's perfect timing. What is the biggest misconception about Buff Bagwell?
The biggest misconception, nobody knows what we went through at WCW unless you were there. Nobody. And that's what hurts me on the internet and all that stuff. Things don't bother me or upset me, but I wish that people that at least had climbed in a ring once or twice, much less 11 years, and then, be in the situation we were in of doing, Nitros and Thunders the same night. Just things that were just crazy, Excuse me. But I don't know. It was just the biggest misconception is that I am a nice guy, You don't keep a job 11 years with 4 bosses and do something wrong. I mean, it just blows my mind that people want to give their opinion when they really don't know what happened or went down, And it's just glued, man. It's stuck, The heat is stuck. So I don't know about it,
Okay. Did you and Vince talk after all? After that match? No. Thoughts on the post-match angle with Austin and Angle?
Thoughts on
the post-match angle with Kurt Angle and Steve Austin after your match?
Thoughts on it? What do you mean?
As far as did you like the way it went?
Oh, the match was so bad. We were depressed and mad at each other, and not mad at each other. Me and Booker talked, and I said, Booker, let me tell you something. I said, we could have tore the house down, and the people still would not have gotten with us. I said, they didn't want to see us, bro. I said, they just did not want to see WCW, much less 2 good guys. You know, I mean, every movie you look at, every wrestling match you look at, there's a good and a bad, you know, so, you know.
What happened at SmackDown between you and Bradshaw? Some people claim he worked over your injured neck and you complained.
What happened there was they told me last minute that he was going to powerbomb me. And I said, no problem, we'll do that, that's fine. And it was dark, a dark match.
Right.
It was dark after it went off. And as much as we wrestle, when it's dark, guys take care of each other a little more, and you know, there's no reason to hurt nobody, you know. Well, it goes dark, and they just beat the hell out of me. I mean, Bradshaw powerbombed me through the. I don't mind getting powerbomb me off the building, but you know,
Protect.
not protect me. Just even if you hurt me, if it's for a rating or TV, hey, you know, okay, my neck, you know, I'm in the business. Okay, so what? But with it being dark and him powerbombing me as hard as he did, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man, you know? I said, at least let the cameras be on. You know, I'm laying there and I said, let me sell this for a minute. And I said, my neck's hurting. Well, he picks me right up and just shoots me right out of the ring, you know? I'm like, you gotta be kidding, you know? And you can see it all in their eyes. They really wanted to get a piece of me, you know? And that's, I don't know.
Why did you miss the weekend's house shows? I guess after that.
That's a total lie. Absolute 100% lie. How that came down was John Ace calls me and asks me how's my head doing. After the third time it had been sewed up, and I did not tell them one thing, didn't ask them to pay for it, paid for it myself, didn't complain about it, bitch about it, moan about it, did my job. And he calls me and goes, how's your head? I said, it's fine. It's fine. Little did he know it was completely wide open, needed to be restitched again for the fourth time, which had not happened yet. And he said, okay, so make sure. I said, I'm ready to go, man, ready to go. You know, it was Augusta and Birmingham, 2 drives for me.
Right.
And Johnny said, okay, so make sure. He hangs the phone up, he calls back. And he says, I got some good news for you. He said, Jim Ross said take the house shows off. And so I said, cool. So I hung the phone up and I went, finally. Okay, maybe they, now, in my head I went, okay. Whew, okay. Now maybe they'll see that you know, that I took the beating from Bradshaw and those guys, and I wrestled with the stitches and the head and all that. Maybe finally everything is good to go, you know. And then I started thinking about the business, as sad as it is, and I go, I better call Jim. So I called Jim Ross. And I say, Jim, how you doing, buddy? He goes, good. I go, I just want to thank, but I don't want to bury Johnny at the same time because Johnny's a good friend of mine. Right. And I said, hey, I just want to thank you for letting me off the house shows this weekend. He said, no problem at all. No problem at all. So just stay home, get your head rested. So that way I knew there were no misunderstandings. Well, the internet hit that my mom called and got me off of them, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, you know? It was not like that whatsoever. That was the absolute fact, total 100% on my life truth. And so I went back to the doctor, got restitched up for the 4th time, and this time a plastic surgeon did it. He clipped it, and it was brutal. I had to cauterize it, and it was, like you see, I was 5 weeks. I just showed you, man. You know, it's maybe more than 5 weeks. I don't even know.
What led to you and the WWF severing your ties?
Jim just simply said that right now let's just you know, if we're going to do future business with Buff, let's let Buff go home, and right now he's just, best thing for him to do is let's just let the lines be drawn a little bit, a little more, and let's just right now call it timeout, you know.
Were you surprised that they wanted to do that, or?
Yeah, not really. Yeah, yes and no. I was surprised that they wouldn't say, give me a second chance or something. Say, hey, look, you know, here's what we got to do. You know, there was none of that. It was flat out, you know, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
And I was just, yes, sir. Right. You got it, man. Whatever you guys want, you know. So.
Would you change anything in hindsight that you did during your WWF stay at all?
Absolutely nothing. There was absolutely nothing I did that I feel like I did wrong, except for a bad match with Booker T on Raw.
How was Jim Ross to deal with? Pretty easy?
Very, yeah. Me and Jim go way back, so Jim's a great guy. He's a real good guy.
What are your thoughts on the way the WCW angle is being handled and written? I mean,
I can't watch the show. I don't. So I don't know.
how did you get involved with MECW?
Guy called me up. He said, "You want to come wrestle?" You know.
Do you think this could work?
I don't know. I really don't know. Everybody's asking that question. You know, that's the $1 million question. I think this guy's legit, and I think there's a lot of talent out there that can be used. And basically, long story short, I think that he's got a lot of money, but don't know a lot about the business either. But at the same time, it's got a chance to be another, you know, like we had a talk tonight, the whole group, and he said, "We'll never beat Vince,
Right.
and we won't." He said, "But if we can just," he said, there is a place for a second company, you know, and there is."
There's a big rumor on it, I guess the internet. Is it true that you breached your WF contract by working those shows for John?
No.
Okay.
What happened is they thought I signed a contract with John, so they terminated my actual last month they owed me.
Right.
And I knew none of this even happened. Then Brad Small called and said, "Do you know you were fired and rehired today?" I went, "No."
Huh.
He said, "Yeah, off the internet. They actually took that off the internet
Right.
and terminated me."
Without MECW right now, where do you see Buff Bagwell's career?
Without MECW, Buff's done. I mean, and you know, I really just want to break, man. I mean, for 11 years I've ran the road, and I just want to break, and I'm trying to make this thing go again. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited again. You know, whether it works or don't work, and whether he's legit or not legit, which I think he is. I just, you know, I just think it's the first time I've been excited again, but at the same time, I'm just a little bit tired, man. You know.
Rate yourself as a worker.
I don't like doing that.
Okay, no problem. Do you think that the reputation you have for having, I guess, a superstar attitude and being hard to deal with is accurate, or do you think it's not accurate?
I think it was very accurate on being hard to deal with. But once again, people have got to understand they had to be there, you know, and see what was going on when we're backstage, and the producers come and go, Buff, we gotta have you in 30 seconds, come on now, come on. You know, and that, not just one time, every single week, eventually, you know, you become, you know, an a-hole,
right.
You know? And it's like, man, you gotta be kidding me, you know? So it turns you into a monster, you know, a little bit, you know, and that's what happened to me. I just became, you know, I was like, you guys have got to be kidding me. Are we not no more organized than this? You know?
Right.
And guys lying and backstabbing, and there was one Nitro, you maybe even saw it, that one of the producers had to open the door for Scotty. And we got all the heat for that. And once we talked to Eric, and I pulled the guy in, the producer, and I said, "Tell him the story now," you know. But he was scared of Eric,
right,
and his job, so he put the heat on me and Lex. Me and Lex were standing in another doorway, and Scotty had to come through that doorway, and we had to wait on Scotty to follow him out, and the door wouldn't open. So he told Eric that me and Lex wasn't there. So just a lot of rumors, and
right.
you know, and like I said, a lot of it's true. But, man, so much of it's not.
Have you ever refused to do a job, and if so, what were the circumstances?
I've never refused to do a job. I've asked about jobs.
Right.
And for an example, one of them was Vito. I was in Cincinnati, and I told my mom was actually on the road because she was working for us then. And I said, you know what, Dad, I'm going to go to Cincinnati today, Mom, and I'm just so sick of battling for position and Just whatever they tell me to do, I'm gonna do, you know. And I walk in and see the board, Vito and Buff, and automatically I knew Vito's gonna beat me, you know. So I said, no big deal, you know. So I went and ate, took our time, and played around. And so they call me in the finish room, you know, and Vito says, they go, we got to catch you with a finish, you know. And I said, okay, no problem. And they went like this.
Wow.
Couldn't believe it, you know. And they said, okay. I said, but I'll be honest with you. I said, I can't take that spinning DDT thing and do with my neck. I said, you can just roll me up.
Right.
You can poke me in the eyes and pin me. I said, I'll be business. I said, but I don't, you know. I said, I can't take that DDT thing on my neck. And as I'm talking to him, I think about it and I go, Vito, I said, who do you have at the pay-per-view? He said, I'm off. And I just got my head and I went. And John Ace did the same thing, and he was like, he knew that I was going after it, and I went, Johnny, I said I was going to try to be a good guy today. I said, where's Vince at, you know, Russo.
Right.
So I went to talk to Vince, and I talked to Vince. I said, Vince, I said, man, what's going on? Just tell me, you know. He said, we want to shock the people. I said, well, if we want to shock the people, I said, have him beat Goldberg or Sting. That'll really shock them. You know? My God, that'll blow their minds. I said, if we're going to shock them, let's shock them. He said, well, there's a percentage out there that wants to see wants to see Vito, you know, or shock the people. I said, well, what percentage would like to see Buff hit his blockbuster and do his dance and pose with his music on and leave with his top hat?
Right.
He says, a good point. And he said, what about if we do a thing where, you know, he slides over on you and then you hit him when you're finished, and then, you know, you guys can, you know, work it out, you know, whatever. And I said, now that's business. I said, I can go with that, you know. And as Vince and Johnny were talking, it just kind of disappeared. And I said, what happened to my blockbuster to get back and make it all make sense, you know? And Russo said, there you go again, talking about money. Talking about winning and losing. And I said, what? I said, Vince, not talking about winning and losing, bud. I said, it's talking about business. I said, that's just business, you know? I said, we're 2 weeks away from a pay-per-view, 1 week away. I said, we've been working 3 weeks. My mom is bruised from the knees down, taking 13 diamond cutters from Canyon. I know I'm the stepping stone for Canyon and Dallas, so I got no problem for that at all. But trying to draw a rating and Vito's off the pay-per-view, I mean, explain that to me. You know, and he just said, well, I can't. So I went out and did the job, you know. Right. So never once refused. Always, I say always, very seldom would ask or question like anybody would. We don't know what they're thinking when they're booking, you know. We got to ask. But never, ever, ever, never, ever in my career that I refuse to do a finish. Never.
Favorite guys to work with?
Man, that's tough. You know, Sting, Dallas. I love working with Scotty Steiner. I love working with Rick, you know. Back in, think of the NWO days when, you know, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and that's when I love working with all those guys, and everybody had a good attitude, and it was just flowing good, man. So really that's, you know, was the main time of guys I like to work with, you know.
Least favorite guys to work with?
I really don't have I mean, honestly, I tell you, I don't have a least favorite. I just know what guys can and cannot do, because I've been in the business long enough to know. Right. So I would always just try to position myself where I don't want to do a certain move, or what if we change it to this, or, you know, that kind of thing, you know, and to try to, you know, and, you know, get around a certain move, you know, if I didn't like it or something.
Best rib you've ever seen?
Best rib?
Yeah.
Davy Boy Smith
Hmm.
shot urine in a tube of toothpaste with a syringe,
Right.
and the person never knew it.
Any good road stories?
A million, but you know,
Too many.
yeah, it really is.
Do you think that Goldberg, Nash, or Hogan should have been at the last Nitro, or do you think that it was? No.
Whew, man, it was so confusing and so messed up during that time. I literally cannot even answer that question. That's just how weird it was back then. It was just nobody really knew what was going on, you know, and of course, anytime you can put Goldberg or Hogan or who's the other name? Nash.
Yeah.
Anytime you put those three names on your card, you do it, you know.
No, I mean, do you feel that they should have came out of respect to the business to be at the last Nitro, or do you think that since they knew that they weren't going to be part of the new company, or I guess they knew they were going to sit out, do you think that it was okay for them to?
Well, at the time now, you got to remember, we were told that it was just simply
That's right.
a break,
Right.
and we're coming back on. And then the last minute is when Shane came in with the meeting and all that. So really, it wasn't clear on what was going on. So no, out of respect, I don't see that. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't fly down to Panama City just to, hey guys, we're taking a little short
Right.
break, and that's how it was perceived to us. It was just a short break, and we'll come back and everything will be great. You know,
What are your views on drugs in the business? Painkillers, steroids?
drugs are in every sport. You know that, and it's just a matter of with any drug, it's a matter of just knowledge, of the drug and knowing what you're doing. If it's steroids, if it's pills, if it's drinking. I mean, forget sports. I mean, that's in everyday life.
Right.
So whether or not guys want to or people want to do that. I mean, the other day my wife brought a U.S. People magazine or U.S. magazine thing home, and it was all these rehab people that they're in rehab right now, and so it's not just in the wrestling world, but wrestling gets a lot of heat for that, But I know wrestling. The reason why wrestling does get a little more heat over it is because people don't realize what it takes to do what we do, and so you got to have some help sometimes and do things that you may not want to do, or for some energy or whatever, and some guys take that to a level that they shouldn't, and some guys get hurt for that,
Do you have any questions? In closing, is there anything you want to say to your fans out there that you weren't ever given?
Yeah, I just back on the internet thing. You said earlier about what was the biggest thing of being misconceived as far as Buff Bagwell is. I'm not here to kiss nobody's butt or tell people to please love me and all that. I'm just telling you to sit back and think that you were not there, and you were not at WCW at the time. You didn't know what was going on. And the people that are talking, I'm saying 99%, if not 100%, have never even climbed into a wrestling ring, much less dealt with the business. So that's what bothers me, is people that say things that they really just don't know. My whole life, if you hear, somebody say, well, we don't like Marcus, he's a bad guy, like say in high school. And then somebody would meet me, they go, you're a cool guy, we like you, And so if you meet me and you got something bad to say about me, go for it. Until you meet me and ask me some questions, then try to judge me. Just remember that I'm an entertainer, and I'm trying to do the best I can to survive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a great interview. Thanks.
Thank you.